Hello, viewers across the world. Welcome to Africa Sports Network. Yes, this is what I call Celebrity Sports Interview. And guess who I'm privileged to have today on the show? The one and only Tesho Akindele. When you hear that name, Akindele, something rings a bell, right? Nigerian connection, right? Yes, he has Nigerian connection. So welcome to the program, Tesho Akindele.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sam. I'm really excited to be here. Talk to all the listeners today.
When I look at your bio, you're 6'1".
Yep.
You know, the choice of basketball, NFL, you know, right in front of you in the US and Canada. Why did you choose to play soccer?
I mean, I think you said it off the bat. You know, my dad is straight from Nigeria, Yoruba tribe. So as soon as I could start walking, he had me kicking the ball. You know, we were in the living room playing with balloon soccer. We would go outside, play the ball all the time. So it's really thanks to my dad. And, you know, even my whole life, he was my coach. And without him, I wouldn't have been a pro. So he's the reason I started playing. And he's kind of the reason I really developed into the player I was able to become.
I know back then when you were, coming up on during your childhood, there are a lot of soccer players, whom everybody look up to. Who will you say influenced your style of play?
The guy I was always trying to model my game off of would have been Thierry Henry. I think I like being a forward, but kind of drifting out wide and then trying to cut into the right foot. Everybody knows his classic curler. You know, like he cuts in. You know, he's going far post. You can't stop it. So that was always my hero in the game. So I try to emulate him as much as possible.
You're talking about Thierry Henry. You tried to model your game after him. Yeah, he came to MLS, played for the New York Red Bulls, and yeah. All right, let's look at your MLS career. 8 to 9 seasons in the Major League Soccer. You scored 44 goals in all competitions, and now you're retired. You know, how is a retirement life like? What does it feel like not waking up in the morning to go to training? You just relax and chill.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. 9 years was a good career for me. You know, looking back, I'm proud at how it went. I was able to win a few Open Cups. I was able to win the Supporter Shield. I represented Canada. So I was able to accomplish a lot of things. And, you know, now I feel really prepared for the next phase of my life. And I have two young kids. I have a wife. So, you know, you always have to balance like your career in soccer with, of course, like the rest of your life and what's best for your family. And we found a great landing spot here in Charlotte. And I'm really excited to start this next phase of my life.
You know, they say when you retire from active sports, and will you say you're missing the game?
Yeah, I'm
Already?
definitely missing. I'm missing it. You know, the first couple weeks you're not missing it because you see all your friends posting the videos of the workouts in the cold, and you say, "Oh man, like I'm glad I'm not doing that." But you know, after a while, of course, like soccer is in me. I've been playing soccer my entire life. Like it's part of my personality. It's running through my blood. So I'll never be too far away from the game for sure. Even just yesterday, I was in Orlando. They have a rookie symposium. So I went back there to go and talk to some of the rookies coming into the league and kind of give them a little bit of preparation for what to expect as a professional soccer player. So I know I'll be connected to the game in some way or another, you know, for my whole life because it's a part of who I am.
It's been your whole life. Maybe some fans, might watch this thing, may not really know your resume in terms of trophy won. You won the US Open Cup and Splash Shield with FC Dallas. You know, you won the Open Cup with Orlando City Football Club just last season. And you won the 2014 MLS Rookie of the Year. And I know you played for the Canadian men's national team. Was there a time you dreamed about playing in Europe, or did any European team, came knocking on your door? Hey, we want this player we love his size, his speed, his pace, his power, the way he plays.
Yeah, I mean, early in my career, I did have some opportunities to go to Europe, but I always enjoyed playing in MLS. I think that, you know, especially if you have a lot of African viewers, I know the Africans look down on MLS a little bit, but the league is growing, you know. I think the quality of play is high, and I think they would be surprised. Like you even see a lot of good players come here. Some do well and some struggle because the league is good. So I always felt very at home in this league. I thought the quality was good, and I saw it growing. I wanted to be a part of that. And I've also just been in the US and Canada for most of my life. And with my wife too, she has a job. So we always kind of felt it was best for us to stay here.
Before you switch your allegiance to play for the Canadian men's national team, looking at your Nigerian origin, when you're banging in goals for FC Dallas and Orlando City Football Club, was there a time that the Nigerian FA reached out that they might want you to switch your allegiance and play for the Green White Green?
No, they never reached out for me. I think at the time they were too big for me, because they were that Nigeria was really at the top of the game right there. And it's really interesting though that this World Cup, Canada made the World Cup and Nigeria didn't. I don't think that's ever happened before. A real surprise, but yeah, Canada, the U.S., and Nigeria are all teams that are like very close to my heart and a part of who I am. But I ended up selecting the country I was born in, Canada, and I don't regret that decision at all. Like I was able to have so many good experiences, travel the world, and represent my country, which was a really great part of my life.
The U.S. men's national team invited you for a friend like Argentina and Panama, but you couldn't play because of one or two things. At what time did you make up your mind to play for the Canadians?
It was right around then. So I went to a January camp with the U.S. and I had decided not to play in the game, so I didn't get cap tied. And then I think right after that camp is when I had talked to the Canadian team, and so I think I went to the next camp. It was March 2015, I believe, is my first camp, somewhere around there with Canada, and I've been all in ever since. And it's really crazy to watch the growth of the Canadian team from when I started in 2015 to, I mean, where they are now in the World Cup. Obviously, the results didn't go the way us Canadians would have hoped, but I think if you watch the games, you saw some real talent from those players, and it's only going to get better. Like the 2026 World Cup for Canada is going to be they're going to be a serious problem, I think, for the other teams to handle.
It's going to get better when you look at when you came into the league, when you are drafted top of your class by FC Dallas, winning the Rookie of the Year, then switching to Orlando City Football Club and all whatnot. Looking back at the league when you came in and where we are right now, what is your honest assessment of the league in terms of followership, expansion, and all that, and revenue?
I think it's improving in a lot of ways. Like, let's just start with the infrastructure, the quality of the facilities and the quality of the stadiums that you're seeing come into the league right now are just so high class. For example, like Cincinnati and Columbus, two teams in Ohio, they just built brand new stadiums in the last 3 years or whatever. Amazing world-class stadiums. Almost every team in MLS, if you look at the quality of the training grounds, even compared to like European clubs, the level of training facilities here is extremely high. And then now you're seeing big, like the MLS is competing with European teams for especially like young South American players, for example. When those guys are looking to make a jump out of South America, MLS is competing head to head with Europe to bring those players as the next step in their career. And I mean, you've seen guys like Almiron come through MLS, and now look at what he's doing in Newcastle. He's one of the top scorers in the EPL. And I think you'll see more players like that. Even one of my former teammates from last year, Facundo Torres, he was on the Uruguay national team, and he's probably going to make a move to Europe soon. So you're seeing some really big name players kind of in their prime of their career, at least launching off their career, choosing MLS, and you're just going to see more of it. The league has a lot going for it right now.
Yeah, even at that, when you look at the quality of the influence of superstars into the league, like Toronto FC have Italian player Insigne, and we come to Chicago Fire, they have Zedran Shaqiri, Swiss international. You saw the goals he scored for the Switzerland at the World Cup. When you come to LA Galaxy, they have a lot of superstars: Gareth Bale, LAFC, Chiellini, LAFC, Heto Herrera, Houston Dynamo. So in all, the league, according to the commissioner, when I spoke to him, he said the league has grown astronomically, from what they used to know. But now people are talking about, when you look at Europe, how their league is being formatted in terms of relegation and promotion. Do you think MLS should adopt such format to relegate and to promote teams?
Like promotion relegation, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Like maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't, but I know they won't. Like because at the end of the day, sports is a business. If I was one of the owners in MLS, there's no way I would agree to promotion relegation. So that's just smart business. Like people can talk about it, but there's no way that's going to happen here. And I think it's fine. I think that maybe they can find ways to incentivize competition, especially at the end of the season for some of the teams who are out of the playoffs. They can probably find some ways to incentivize competition, but promotion relegation, it's just not going to happen over here. It's not really realistic.
Yeah, soccer is all about rivalry and derbies all over the world. the Milan derby, the Merseyside derby, the North London derby, the Manchester derby. Even in MLS, we have the El Tráfico LAFC and LA Galaxy. We have the New York Red Bulls and New York City Football Club derby. We have the Texas derby, which you played in when you were in FC Dallas. And also you played against Orlando and Inter Miami. It's a derby too. Playing all these derbies, which one will you say is more difficult to play?
I think the most exciting one for the league right now is the El Tráfico, LA Galaxy versus LAFC. That's a really, because two primetime teams, like you have all the superstars of Hollywood go into those games. So I think that one's a really big one for the league. Historically, it had been Seattle versus Portland, I think was kind of the superstar rivalry. But yeah, I think it's good. I was able to play in the Texas Derby, which is great, especially like because it means a lot to the people in Texas. I think that those kind of derbies maybe don't have the same national recognition as the El Tráfico and the Cascadia Cup do, but they do have a lot of meaning for the people in Texas. Which is that's what it's supposed to be. A derby is supposed to be important to the local people. Even the Florida one. It's funny, even with the Florida one, we played Open Cup this year against we played against Tampa Bay Rowdies, and that was a derby. They're not even in the MLS. We don't even play the same, but their fans came. They were, fighting with our fans, kind of. So it's cool to see those local derbies being brought up here in the U.S.
Right, back to the national team of Canadians and look at their outing at the last World Cup, finished rock bottom. They couldn't get a win in all their games in a group that have Morocco that finished fourth, Croatia that finished third, and Belgium. How will you rate their outing at the World Cup?
Honestly, I think their performances were good. Like if you look at the games, there was a lot of good moments. Maybe just missing some of the final product. Like the Belgium game, could have won that game. That ended up in a tie. Croatia went ahead against Croatia, and I think maybe you weren't able to adjust to be able to hold on to that lead. But yeah, like you said, you played against the third place team and the fourth place team, and you put up a fight. Like they weren't blown out of any of the games. They were right in it the entire time. So I think the performance, I think they deserved more for how well they played, but it's something to build on. Like the team hadn't been in the World Cup for 40 years plus, and to come out and like show we can compete with Belgium, who was supposed to be one of the top teams in the world, and then Morocco and Croatia, who were the top teams in the tournament. They competed head to head with them and didn't look out of place. So to me, it was a promising thing, even though the results didn't go the way we would have wanted.
Did you think you should have been called up for the last World Cup?
I would have wanted to, but I think the players they called up were the right players. There's a lot of talented players in Canada, especially forwards right now. You have Jonathan David, Kyle Larin. These guys are scoring goals in Europe. So there's just a lot of good players. I was just happy to be part of the team for whenever I was. I think 2 years ago or a year ago, I was in the Gold Cup playing with the team. So I had been in and around the program, but I think they made the right decision. The coach, John, he wants to win more than anything, and he chose the players he thought could help him do that.
Yeah, in the next 4 years, a World Cup coming to this part of the world. And, a lot of countries will like to start the slogan, host to win. Now we have three nations, the Canadians, the Mexicans, and the US, and the Americans are hosting. Among these three countries, which of them do you think stand a better chance of maybe clinching the World Cup on home soil?
I would say Canada, of course. But I think so historically, Mexico had kind of been the best in the region. And right now they seem a little bit in turmoil. I think that they've had a little bit of difficulty for how many good players they have. We'll see if they'll be able to figure it out by then. The US is a good team as well, but I really, really believe in the Canadian group, just because a lot of the players that were in this World Cup will be around again. Somebody like Tajon Buchanan, who I think right now is playing in Belgium. He is a player, a top player. This guy, like Jonathan David, he's in the French league, top player. So you have Alphonso Davies, of course. He's the top player in the world, So you have some of these guys who are not only good for this region of the world, but some of world-class talent, and they're young still. Like all of those guys are, I believe, under 25. So they have time to grow. They're going to be kind of in the prime of their career come next World Cup. And I know that there's even future stars coming up, like this guy, Ismail Kone. He was playing in Montreal last year.
Nah, he's in Europe.
He's in Europe. He's a real player too, and I think he's 19 maybe. So there's a lot of players like that, Canadian players coming up through the ranks, and I think they have a really good chance at the next World Cup.
You know, the World Cup is the greatest soccer showpiece in the whole world, no doubt about that. And whenever a particular region is gifted that chance to host, they involve a lot of ambassadors as internationals, to help them spread the message. I say in a Billy Graham style, the way Billy Graham spread the gospel message. Now, Canada, US, and Mexican will be hosting 2026 World Cup. Why haven't they integrated you into that ambassadorial position to spread that message in a Billy Graham style? What are they waiting for?
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of people to spread the message, I'm sure each country will have their own representatives. For example, like one of my good friends, St. Ricketts, a Canadian player for a long time, he was at the World Cup in Qatar, doing a lot of the TV stuff. I think he would be a good ambassador. You have guys like Julian de Guzman, historical Canadian players, doing a lot right now with like the CPL and stuff. So I think that there's guys who are up there. I'm not even living in Canada right now, so I think that some of the guys that are up there living in Canada will be great ambassadors for the game. But if they ever need my help, like I'm happy. I'm a big fan of soccer. Like I want to promote it not only in Canada but in the US, around the world. So if anybody reaches out to me, I'm always more than happy to to jump in and help promote the game.
You played against a lot of defenders in the league, Ray. If you can remember, which of them stuck to your mind that you would say, man, this guy was really a thorn in my flesh to play against?
Yeah, it's funny because this guy actually that I'm going to say, he wasn't even really a defender for most of his career, but his name's Maurice Adu. He does a lot of the TV stuff for the US. And this guy, man, he was playing in my first year is when and that might have been why, because I was new to the league. I was still a little bit nervous, but he gave it to me, man. I couldn't do anything against Maurice Adu. And his career was unfortunately ended early due to some injuries, but he was an amazing player. And I still remember him as being one of the toughest defenders for me to go against.
How do you prepare, for games? Like, what kind of music do you use to put yourself in the mood? What kind of food do you eat? Like, how do you prepare for on game days?
Yeah, usually I like to take a nap in the middle of the day. Like if there's a game at night, I'll probably take a nap at like 11 or something like that. Then for food, I just like to eat simple, like rice, beans, some chicken or some fish.
Jollof rice?
Sometimes, but a lot of times that we're on the road, so that they have the food prepared for us. So usually you have kind of two options, like pasta or rice for most teams in MLS. So I usually just go rice, beans, and some fish, avocado too. And then in terms of music, like I usually like to listen to some just the same music I was listening to when I was like in middle school and high school, like some hip hop and rap, like some 50 Cent. I love 50 Cent. I love Nipsey Hussle. I'll be listening to those guys. But then when we get to the stadium, you kind of transition to this team speaker. So
yeah,
the
bump up a little bit.
One DJ for the whole team. And it's a lot of good mix of music because, you look at any team in MLS, is very multicultural. So you have the Spanish music going, you have some of the French African music going, you have some of the just American rap music going. So there's a lot. You got Burna Boy going, of course,
Oh, yeah. I would say when to talk about that young musician like Burna Boy.
yeah. So there's a lot of music in the locker room.
So which of Nigerian food, not traditional Nigerian food, looking at your background, your Yoruba, which of the traditional Nigerian food do you gravitate towards?
I mean, of course, jollof rice. Nigerians make the best. So my aunts every Christmas, my aunts every Christmas are making some good jollof rice for us. And then like they make a little dessert that like puff puff is just like fried dough balls. I love those too. So I'll go with the jollof rice as my staple, and then you finish off the meals with some puff puff, and it's good.
So now you're retired. What next? Any plan of going into management, coaching, punditry and all that? What's next for Tesho Akindele?
Yeah, the next step for me is real estate development, actually. So even during my career, I was investing in real estate. I'm a big advocate for athletes should be investing their money in real estate because, like, look at me, I'm 30 years old and I just retired. So you need to find ways to generate income outside of your career. And then so real estate real estate investing for me went from just an investment to now something that I'm passionate about from like a value standpoint. And I want to like build better neighborhoods. I want to build places that make communities better, that make the world a better place to live in. So I'm joining like a real estate development team who is doing stuff like that.
All right, I'm not going to take much of your time today. Tesho, appreciate you for taking out these few 20-25 minutes that are about to, join me on Celebrity Sports Interview. And as you enjoy your retirement, we'll still be reaching out to you on comments on topical and sports issues as they unfold here in the US and all over the world. My name is Sam. Thank you very much, Tesho, for joining us. So one last word for your fans. We're going to watch this around the world.
I would say just go out in the world and be a good person. That's what I would say. Spread love, spread joy, be a good person.
Spread love, spread joy, be a good person. Thank you, Tesho, for this time. I really appreciate that. And God bless you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.